State Representative Craig Goldman of Fort Worth and Chair of the Energy Resources Committee, thank you so much for joining us. First, your reaction to breaking news that the Lieutenant Governor is now calling for the resignation of the PUC chair and also ERCOT CEO.
Yeah, that just literally came across our desk as well. So, I would imagine that, after the hearings last week, in the House, we had 26 hours of hearings in 2 days. And I think we're going to see a lot of people say that there was Mother Nature error, but also some human error as well. And those are one of the takeaways that came across from those hearings. And so I believe that's the reaction of the Lieutenant Governor.
And do you agree with him? Do you think that the PUC chair and the ERCOT CEO should resign?
It's still too early for me to make that realization, Jack, to be honest with you. Again, we just finished our hearings on Friday night. And there's a lot of information still to process and go through about who did what, when, and where. Here's what we do know is there was overall sense of the fact that there was a horrific lack of communication to the people of Texas as far as managing expectations about whether or not they were going to have small power outages or rolling blackouts. In reality, there were long power outages, and we didn't let the people of Texas know that. And so we're trying to figure out whose responsibility that actually is. And if it's not someone's, then we have to mandate that it becomes someone's responsibility. What we also know is that basically every single power source that supplies power to the people of Texas failed. Coal actually froze and couldn't be burned. Wind, the wind panels froze and couldn't produce wind energy. The solar panels were covered in snow. Natural gas, the equipment froze out in West Texas and they couldn't pump the natural gas. And then nuclear, we have 2 nuclear plants in the state of Texas and one of them wasn't acting at 100% capacity. So there were failures all over. We want there to be a reliability in our power sources, and there was basically failure in every single power source at the exact same time.
So given the hearings now, they're over with, a lot of residents want to know, now what?
Yeah, it's a great question, and now we act. We basically had, like I said, 25 plus hours of testimony from every single stakeholder involved in the process. We have another hearing starting this Wednesday. As far as now that we know what the problem is, we've heard people admit to what problems were made, now we act. And so Wednesday begins our committee's dissection on what we all heard during the hearings, and we produce solutions for the people of Texas beginning this Wednesday in our first committee hearing since.
What do you think needs to be done to prevent this from happening again?
Well, that's what we're going to figure out. I mean, again, we've heard 2 days of testimony, and now we have to figure out, do we mandate weatherization or winterization of all aspects of what people supply as far as the power sources across the state? Do we change, the leadership at ERCOT? Do we change the leadership at PUC? Or did those people perform at the very best they could? They had their chance to testify and tell us what roles they played. And then it's up to us to decide whether we restructure that or keep that going on and realize that there was some human error involved along the way, and who actually made those human errors as far as making critical decisions at times where the people of Texas depended on them the most.
What did you make of the bankruptcy filing of Brazos Electric Power Co-op, which is
well, frankly, it wasn't surprising. We kind of predicted that was going to happen, and we'll see if that's the last. And that, when you get a bill that you cannot pay, it wasn't shocking to me that they filed bankruptcy.
Is there going to have to be a state bailout?
That there's still ongoing discussions in regards to how we respond to that. And that wasn't part of the hearings last week, but I know it continues to be an ongoing discussion of what we do and how we react to those.
Governor
a lot of people in the same way. A lot of Texans are getting ready to open their electric bills and they're not going to be able to pay them either. So what do we do in that instance?
Well, how big of a problem is that going to be? I mean, and we're not talking about the gritties, right, of the world. We're just talking about people who had fixed rate bills, right, who are going to see higher bills because of all this.
Yeah, Jack, to be honest with you, I don't have those numbers put in front of me yet, but we're going to get those and answer what we should have those numbers again as people start opening bills, those that information will start to flow through. So we should have the exact numbers in that probably in the next week or two, and then we'll have to react at that time.
And
But the beginning stages of how what the solution is going to be to that is there certainly are ongoing talks, knowing that that's getting ready to happen next.
my question to you and to really all the lawmakers is, the governor had said last week twice now that he's not going to let lawmakers leave until this situation is fixed. And so I'm wondering, as you and your committee start your work, and the other committees that held the hearings as well, and the state affairs in the House as well,
Mhm.
and then also business and commerce in the Senate, is there some discussion as to whether there would be a joint Senate House working group to try to speed things up so that, not necessarily rush, but that all the different players, if you will, on these committees are involved so that there can be a set, there could be a lot of agreement between the House and the Senate so that there isn't a delay in, making sure that, well, this, the House passed it first. Now the Senate's got to look at it. You know what I mean? To prevent
You're
all that.
you're dead on, and we're already there. Senator Hancock is the chairman of the Senate Business and Commerce Committee. He's from North Texas as well. He's a great friend of mine. He and I spoke all weekend long, comparing notes from our two committee hearings. He had 2 days worth of hearings. We had 2 days worth of hearings. Now we come together. We discuss what we both learned in those hearings, and then we talk about what legislation we need to draft, and I'm sure he and I will do so together. This will not be a House bill or a Senate bill. This will be a combined response to what happened, so that you're exactly right. So we can move swiftly on behalf of the people of Texas. Absolutely. So those talks are already ongoing. Senator Hancock and I took care of that this week, and we'll continue to do so.
Um, some people have said that Texas should join the national grid. Do you agree with that?
I don't. I don't. And there was no one who testified to that nature in those 25 plus hours of hearings. No one advocated for that. And I don't know, I frankly don't know one member of the legislature who's advocating for that either.
And then let me ask you one other question, and that is, one of the things that I kept hearing is that there needs to be a seamless and integrated electric grid with the gas grid. And I know right now you've got gas that's regulated by the Railroad Commission, and then you've got the electric, which is obviously run by ERCOT and then overseen by PUC.
Correct.
And so I'm wondering, does Texas need to blow up its current structure, if you will, politically speaking, of course, and just have one single regulator accountable to the public, perhaps, elected officials like we see with the Railroad Commission?
I can't answer that today, Jack, but I certainly will say that will be solved by the time we get out of here May 31st, because absolutely that's part of one thing that we learned last week in our hearings of a possible and probable solution, so that electricity and gas are under one entity. And again, it goes back to the communication aspect of things. When people weren't communicating, in my opinion, how they all should have been, during the moment of crisis? Why were there so many different people involved who weren't talking? Perfect example: the PUC is a three-member commission, the Railroad Commission is a three-member commission, and they were unable, because of state law, to be able to talk to one another, because that was breaking the Open Records Act. The Open Meetings Act. So that's a problem that we need to fix as well. I mean, our commissioners and our leaders should be able to talk to each other, especially in times of crisis, to come up with solutions. But they were unable to do so when they were following the law.
Can't their staffs talk?
Their staffs can talk, yes, but the actual commissioners cannot. But that's a game of telephone, relaying what one person said to call another staffer to then tell the commissioner, instead of a commissioner being able to pick up the phone and talk to another commissioner. In a time of crisis, you need instant information as quickly as you can get it. And they weren't able to do that because of the laws of the Texas. And again, I think that's one thing that we need to change.
Okay, sounds like you're still open to a lot of different possibilities.
We're open to a lot of different possibilities, Jack. And to that point, one member of our caucus brought up a great point. This is open for the people of Texas to participate in and provide solutions to us. Please call your state representative, call your state senator, get involved in the solutions, tell us your stories, because we're here till May 31st, and we need to make sure we pass whatever laws we need to pass in the next few months, so that we're not put in this situation again. So we welcome the public input as much as possible, and that's why we have the committee hearings as well, is to get public input as much as possible.
State Representative Craig Goldman, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time
Thanks
and
for
insight
having me.
today.
Anytime. Thanks a lot, Jack. Appreciate it. Have a good day.